How's everybody doing today? My name's John. I'm here to bring you the Icar podcast. And fresh out of the oven, we have some great topics today, like the NASCAR races at Daytona and Infinion, Formula One at Azerbaijan with the Hamilton and Vettel battle, and as well as other things across the board like iRacing and such. With me today is, again, Jonathan Wall,
What's up, everybody?
Gerald Harper,
What's up?
and Jonathan Christopher.
How's it going?
I think a good place to start is we'll go back to Infineon and look back at that race where it looked like Martin Truex Jr. was going to be the class of the field, and unfortunately blew the motor and gave pretty much the win to Kevin Harvick. But I mean, you got anything more to add on that, J-Wall?
Now that we're recording, Sonoma's been a few weeks ago, so I kind of vaguely remember it. But yeah, I mean, it seems to be Martin Truex Jr. status quo is, best car in practice, qualifying, and even in the race. And something stupid happens, like a part failure. So I don't know what they're doing this year at Furniture Row, but it's quite scary. If they hadn't had some of the dumb luck they've had, that they would have probably. It's scary how many points they have. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah, I mean, especially in the sense of that car's just an extension now of Joe Gibbs Racing, and that they're able to pretty much outperform all of Joe Gibbs with cars that aren't even finishing the race. I think he's like, what? He has 13 stage wins this year, if I'm mistaken, 11, 13. He's already double digits. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I think I heard some talking, and they were like, they're not quite sure how the chase is going to work out, but that almost his bonus points, he could almost not even race the first chase race and still be fine. So I don't know how it's going to work out this year, but I will say that their strategy that team is playing is ingenious because they're banking on more the fact that they can win these stages than win races, and which, I mean, ultimately everybody wants to win races too, but if they can get all these stage wins and all these extra points, then they may just stink the show up come playoff time.
I wouldn't go that far. I think I think as a competitor, as Martin Truex Jr. is, you don't want to just, lay down in that situation. I think that more than ever, you want to flex your muscle.
I'm not saying he's laying down, but I'm saying that they're gearing their strategy more to win these stages at the beginning of a race than they are to win the race at the end of it, if that makes any sense. Now, with that said, I'm not, they're still trying to win races, but I think with the fact that their stage wins and everything, they're not really feeling the terrible luck they've had as bad this year, just because they can go to sleep at night knowing that they have an incredible amount of playoff points compared to the rest of the field. So,
oh, definitely for sure. But also on Phoenix or Infineon, my bad, or Sonoma, whatever it's called this week. There's another guest there. Michigan, there was Tony Stewart. This week at Sonoma was Carl Edwards. What do you guys think? Do you think he's coming back soon? I mean, I know he was there for sponsorship obligations, but do we see a Carl Edwards return maybe to the 88?
I mean, in my opinion, I'm going to say no, because if I'm Carl Edwards and I tell the people that I'm not going to be doing something, I don't know. He just, to me, just seems like a really honest and true guy. I really don't know why he would lie, other than him being, told that. But
I mean, I'll go with.
No, I mean, I was just going to say that. I mean, the situation when I definitely think that it was kind of a shady situation that Daniel Suarez, the father, kind of bought out the ride, I guess you could say. But it was such a sudden thing. But you see this in all forms of sports. I mean, you see people in the prime of their career just retire, and after such a I mean, he was literally a couple of inches away from winning the championship on more than one occasion. With Stewart back in, I forget what year it was, 2009 or 10 or something. And
Oh, yeah, we had the
now,
virtual tie, and Stewart won the tiebreaker.
2011.
right, yeah, and then last year, because had he missed Logano, I mean, he was on his way to that championship. You know, we're very lucky. Well, I won't say lucky, but we're it was very, very likely that we would have had a Carl Edwards champion this year. And had that have happened, would he have retired? Would Suarez's father tried to buy the ride out? I don't know. We don't really have any facts regarding that situation, but
Oh, so what you're saying is, like, you think that Edwards was forced to retire because Suarez was kind of being pushed at the ride sooner than later?
well, I don't want to jump to any conclusions by any means. I have no evidence to support that, but we all know that Suarez's father is the CEO of Aris, the main sponsor for that team, and I don't think it's any mistake that. I just think it played some kind of factor in the situation. Is all I'm saying.
Well, why wouldn't they, in that situation, why would it be Edwards instead of a Matt Kenseth who's older? You know what I'm saying? Like, why? Because it doesn't, like, I would argue in the sense of they should have done that to Matt Kenseth, like, switch Carl Edwards to the 20, have Matt Kenseth retire, and then have Suarez come in. I think that would be a better team than Matt Kenseth in that fact. Not saying Matt a bad driver, he's still a great driver, but I don't know. I would rather have Edwards than Kenseth.
In my opinion, I think that 20 car was already probably Joe Gibbs has probably already told his whole entire team that that car is a lock for Eric Jones whenever Kenseth is done.
True,
Yeah.
but then you have Eric Jones racing the 78 and or 70 was it 78 77
77.
77.
in for Furniture Row, which is just an extension of Joe Gibbs right now.
Yeah, I mean, they
Right,
pretty
but-
much said that was only going to be a 1-year car, I think, right?
Yeah, it's a 1-year contract.
Oh, okay.
At least his driving contract is. I don't think anything's been confirmed as far as the team as a whole goes.
And that's probably just to get him up in cup sooner, too, you know.
So are we going to make the prediction that Matt Kenseth is retiring at the end of this year?
I think he said he wasn't.
That he was already?
No, that he was not. This year, anyway. He might do 1 or 2 more, I think.
Well, as you were saying earlier, J-Wall, with the retiring young, I mean, Nico Rosberg did last year with the F1 season. He won his one championship with Mercedes and then just retired.
Yeah, that was almost even more sudden than Carl Edwards.
Yeah,
And
because
Minnesota.
that was just like, what, a couple of weeks after he won his championship, just said, I'm done, and walked away, which baffled everybody.
Which wasn't even that long. I think it was like a week into him winning, wasn't it?
It was something like that. It was enough to catch everyone so off guard that it made it to a bigger deal. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think a lot of it now is the fact that I think a lot of drivers are now realizing the safety aspect that, you know, maybe the sport isn't catching up on safety as it claims to be, you know?
Not only that, but I think the amount of like talent that we see going through the drivers now in the Cup Series that are getting towards the end of their careers, like Carl Edwards and what Dale Jr. has done and Tony Stewart, I think they want to go out on their own terms, and they rather do it sooner than wait like Greg Biffle did. He waited too long and was just removed. Not
True.
for his own really doing, just because it was a step the team wanted to take, and I don't think everyone wants to turn out like Bobby Labonte and Mark Martin did, even though Mark Martin was still pretty competitive. But they want to go out on their own terms, not be forced out for loss of ride or sponsorship or etc.
Yeah, well, like in Labonte's case, when you see a driver who won a championship and then slowly over the next 15 years get, you know, slowly 1 year after the other get delegated back down to a slower team to the point where it was just kind of like by the
Well,
time he
that's the
retired,
same thing as Terry as well. Terry
was
Labonte did
riding-
the same exact thing.
Yep. Bobby
by the
Labonte
time you
would just
retire,
make the
you're
field
yeah,
champions provisionals.
yeah,
And that was really the only thing he had going.
yeah. It's kind of a sad. It's rather just burn out than just fade away.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of that too, though, is a fact of like a lot of racers just want to race forever and ever. You know what I'm saying? Like what? Morgan Shepherd's still racing. He's 960 years old.
Yeah.
Well, that's
But, you
another
know,
thing that took what Tony Stewart wanted to do. He's still racing. Like every week, he's at some dirt track or doing some open wheel race or whatever. He's still living the racer's lifestyle. He just wanted to do
on
his
his own
own
terms.
thing. He didn't want to be confined to I wouldn't say the spotlight, but just having to be in the Cup Series the whole time and not being able to do other things that he loved to.
But at the same time, like, would you think Dale Jr. is going to do the same thing? Do you think Jr. is still going to race his own races?
Well,
or
he's
do you
already
think...
said he owns a late model team for Josh Berry, and I'm pretty sure he'll definitely run some late model races. He even might run some truck stuff, I would think.
Would you see him run nationwide or
Yeah.
Yeah,
with
maybe the
Xfinity?
plate tracks, something like
He's
that.
he's already told that he is racing in 2018. I think he's got 2 pre-scheduled Xfinity races that he's obligated to. I think one is Richmond, and I forget what the other one is.
Richmond.
Yeah. I listened to it when they were at it was a couple weeks back. It was when they were at Charlotte. His one of the after qualifying press conferences or whatever, and he was saying that he's gonna keep running Xfinity, and he's gonna run as many short tracks as he can. That he's bored with all the mile and a half; they're not exciting anymore, and that's what he likes about Xfinity is because they race way more short tracks. So like you said, I'm just retiring from full time Cup driving. That doesn't mean that he won't show up from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
Especially at Daytona or Talladega.
Yeah, which I didn't like all the hype on. No, it's his last Daytona race, and then he goes out
Well,
and wins the
you
pole.
knew that was going to come, though. I mean,
but he goes out and wins the pole, and then says he wants to do the Clash and possibly the 500 next year. But NBC kept pushing. It's his last race. It's his last race.
You guys all know that I've been an avid Junior fan for a while, and even I was annoyed how much every single thing that would happen
was
the whole entire weekend would have some kind of Junior relation, and I'm just like, the media is the reason that Junior fans and Junior himself get such flack from everybody else that watches the sport, but just because of all the coverage they give him. And I mean, you can't fault the guy. You could tell me till you're blue in the face that Earnhardt isn't the most talented person out there, and I will agree with you. But I will say that I think that he was never. His fans don't like him because he's the best. His fans like him because of who he is and who he stands for. What he represents.
He's definitely. He's likable for sure.
Yeah, and what he represents for the sport. He kind of came in on the tail end of a new generation of fan who are now, including myself, who are now starting to have kids of their own, and we all would be lying if we didn't say that we were a little bit disappointed in how everything turned out as far as his Cup career. But I mean, the guy's won a lot of stuff. He's won a lot of races, and he was never, from day one, he always said he's never his dad, and he never wanted to be. He was always his own person, and if you can't respect that, then I don't know what you can.
Yeah, I don't think anyone. I mean, they probably did in the earlier years try to compare him, but you really can't, because not only were they different personalities. I mean, yeah, there's some like, well, not eerie, but just kind of like freaky similarities to watching them race at a plate track. Like watching them race Daytona, you can see how similar the styles were on how just somehow in some way, both senior and junior, they could just be faster than everyone else on a plate track, and you have no idea how. It's just kind of crazy to watch. But, I mean, everywhere else, senior was, in my opinion, by far a better driver than junior. But junior definitely has the charisma to compete with.
Oh, I don't think there's ever any question about that. But in that sense, I've always said I think Junior would have been a better driver if his father didn't pass away, because I think that would have had a lot less stress on him. He could have been a lot more productive in the sense. I'm not gonna say he would have won a championship, but I think he would have won more races, been a better contender as well, if it wasn't for Senior passing away at Daytona. But
I think there's a lot of factors. I mean, because that one year, what was it, 2004, when he had 6 wins a season?
Yeah, 2004.
I mean, you got to think, he never liked the COT car. He said it was, he just never could. He felt comfortable in it. And then when they came to the Gen 6, he said I remember when they first came out, he was like, I like this a lot better. It's a lot more like the Gen 4 was, way more comfortable in it. Just look at Tony Stewart. They rolled out the Gen 6 and he won, like 3 races,
Yeah, he was very, very openly critical about pretty much everything NASCAR's done for the past decade.
Yeah.
Which I think actually was a big reason why he decided to just step away now. I remember last year on the radio he was complaining that they were too much like the Xfinity cars, and if he wanted to drive an Xfinity car, he would go to the Xfinity Series.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing too. I feel like, as we were saying, with the older drivers want to go on their own note. I think a lot of it too is the fact that NASCAR literally changes year to year, and there's nothing consistent about it anymore. And I think a lot of the drivers are getting fed up with that.
Yeah, and that definitely caters to the younger generation that's coming in now.
Yeah,
Not so much the old school guys that are on their just they've done the same thing forever.
I mean, you roll out a brand new, generation of car, and no 2 seasons have been the same. They're constantly changing rules package or whatever. It's like by the time each team starts to get a really good grasp of what they could do with this car for the next season, guess what, guys? We're no longer going to let you guys do this or do that,
Yeah, they just don't want to deal with it anymore.
Well, and I think that's part of the reason of trying to land new fans is, number one, it's confusing to start off with, and then let's say you just became a fan last year, well, they changed so much into 2017 that it's going to be hard for the average fan to try to keep up with. Now, we all know that we're all pretty hardcore fans when it comes to any form of racing, but I mean, it's even kind of confusing for the old longtime NASCAR fans to try to keep up with, and also in the same hand, they changed the schedule so much that it's hard to build any history with the schedule. I think there was some kind of a mystique, if you will, of the schedule of running certain races at certain times of the year. Like, Darlington would always be Labor Day and yada yada back,
Well, the World 600 was Memorial Day.
Yeah,
Daytona.
And they're all pretty close to being back the way that they were, but they keep changing the schedule every year. They either subtract a race here, add a race there, and this and this and this. This track repaves. And what these people don't understand, what I think that NASCAR is missing is history and the fact that it's something different every single year. So you can't really say one way or the other, that you can't really tell the racing apart. I mean, they're so focused on trying to, find every little thing that they can tweak and change, make it better, versus letting them race and letting the racing be better itself.
Yeah, I could see what you mean by that. But they've grown they keep getting farther and farther away from what it used to be. Like easy changes could be made, like what you said to the schedule. I know money-wise it would be hard to add more short tracks. I understand that. But in the same way, like what you said about getting new fans, there's always going to be the fans that just tune in. Like I know I have people around here because I'm in the north where there's not as many NASCAR fans as down south. But I know people up here that they watch the Daytona 500, but they're not really NASCAR or racing fans at all. But they just watch it because it's just one of those great sporting events in America that you just want to watch, like the Super Bowl or the World Series and stuff like that. But even an average fan, they're not going to tune in for that Chicagoland race in the middle of August. You know, who really wants to even watch it anymore, in a way? There's no history behind it whatsoever.
Well, going upon on that, so like this week at Daytona, they had that overtime rule issue, or the overtime line, and that's a huge controversy in itself that we could delve into later. But what would you say NASCAR needs to do to change back, to get, not I want to say back to its roots, but to make NASCAR the predominant American racing series again it used to be?
In my opinion, from week to week, besides the occasional different track that's thrown in there, like we saw in Sonoma a few weeks ago, and then the plate track in Daytona, it's just gotten incredibly repetitive. I feel like at least 75 to 80% of the schedule is the same race. Like, yeah, it's a different venue, but these mile and a halves are they've gotten better this year, I think, but they were progressively getting worse and worse. And I don't know, I know you said you don't want them to continue to make changes every year, but I think they do have to do something about the aero and how important clean air is, and just to make the racing better in general.
It's not so much I don't mind them making changes. It's just every year it's just so totally different change. You don't stick to one thing and keep on improving and make it better.
Yeah, like you're talking about.
If they do it something, they'll say, "Hey, we're gonna have less downforce on the cars," and then next year it's more downforces on the cars or whatever. You know what I mean? They can't just stick to one idea,
and then they take power away, and they get another spoiler, and then they change the. Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say when you're talking about aero. If you've got all this downforce and you've got 800 horsepower, and then the next year we're gonna reduce whatever it is, like 2,500 pounds of downforce, but we're gonna knock down. So you're only gonna run 600.
Idea.
You're only gonna have a 650 to 700 horsepower engine. Well, you're right back to where you started. You can't. Yeah, you can't have low downforce and high horsepower. That's what creates. You actually have to drive it in the turns. If you take the downforce away, but also take the horsepower away, you might as well just left the horsepower and downforce there to begin with.
Yeah, like remember watching the old mile and a half, the Atlanta races that would always have the amazing finishes, and even Texas and tracks like that where just watching those cars and you can see them driving them. Like you can see them bounce around. You can watch the car react to their steering input. And it just seems like all the cars now, they're glued to the track, and it is incredibly hard to pass. And it's just whoever gets out front, basically, just all track position.
I think that's a lot. I think you see that in other forms too, like Formula One. It's kind of like the whole back in the like the '60s in NASCAR, where they went through the whole wing war, and then between like the Dodge Daytona and the Plymouth Superbird, whatever, and then NASCAR had to kind of scale it back. All right, we're not going to run all these wings on our cars anymore. I think you see it in Formula One too. It gets so aerodynamic to the point where it makes the racing boring and uncompetitive. So then they start scaling the cars back, and I think that's what they need to do with NASCAR again, and and put more mechanical grip into these cars and not make them so aero dependent.
Yeah, and they need to change, especially the Xfinity series, because some weekends I don't understand why. Like Indianapolis to be the most oblivion. Why in the world is the Xfinity Series racing at Indianapolis? That doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. Yeah, and it's like it's like not even a half hour away from Indianapolis.
Well,
And
remember when
it's just a 10 times better track, and that's where that series should be. It's an up and coming series. It's not. You can't put the second tier NASCAR series on one of the world's biggest and proudest racetracks. It doesn't make any sense.
That's always like the one thing. Whenever I was growing up, I'm sure J1 and Chaz will know. Same with you, Gerald. Like, best part about watching then Busch series, but Xfinity series was all the small tracks that you never got to watch the big boys race. Nazareth, Milwaukee, ORP, Iowa, Kentucky. Like those tracks, no one, like, Sprint Cubs never went there. So you would actually watch these young guys race them and put on a great show for it as well.
Yeah, remember the first, like, the inaugural Truck Series season? Like, those races were amazingly good. And that's because of the schedule they were on. But the trucks is a little different because the trucks at mile and a halfs are actually really good races because they are incredibly underpowered, so the draft comes into play pretty good. But the Xfinity cars really don't belong on some of the tracks they race on. They go to a lot of road courses, which is cool, and they go to Canada and whatnot. Well, I don't know if they go to Canada anymore.
Yeah.
It's only the Truck Series, but that's they need more of that.
Yeah, they do. They go to Montreal.
Oh, yeah, true.
But they also go to Canadian
go to-
Tire Park, don't they?
Yeah. Well, the
Truck
Truck Series goes there.
Yeah, the Truck
and Xfinity goes to Villeneuve.
And that's one thing, too, I wish the Spring Cups will do. I know you guys are not going to agree to say, but they should go to more road courses.
Oh, absolutely.
I agree with that.
Watkins Glen has been for a while, for the last 2 to 3 years, been the best race to watch in the NASCAR series. I will argue that forever. But
I think it's been one of the more exciting races, but I think at the same time though, I think the road courses are great, but we got to remember that iRacing was founded on the ovals. But now I'm not saying that I don't think that NASCAR should get more road courses. I'm absolutely 100% behind that. I think they also need to make the oval. They need to make the mile and a half. If they're gonna have 75% of the schedule to be mile and a half, they need to make those better races.
Oh, for sure. I mean,
Absolutely.
an easy fix would be like getting more short tracks and more road courses and taking away those mile and a halves. That's
But
a
I
quick
was so
solution.
frustrated when they made that choice earlier this year to take out New Hampshire and add another Vegas race. Now, I know New Hampshire has not been a very good race for a while, I would say. I think the only decent race was when Harvick ran out of gas. That was like the only good thing that happened. But, I mean, that was, again, the cars too, because they're glued to the track. Even past New Hampshire races have been good. You just need to not have this crazy downforce. But to add another mile and a half is, again, what I was saying before, that they just keep going farther and farther away from what they should be.
Well, I think, and this is going to be another one of my tinfoil hat theories, but I think that I can't remember his name or the corporation that owns them. That I know the guy who owns is Eddie Gossage that owns.
It's like Speedway Corporation.
Speedway
like
Corp.
that.
He owns Vegas, Charlotte, Texas, Atlanta, New Hampshire,
that's
some of those other places.
That's Burton Smith.
Yeah, Bruton Smith. There you go. That's the name I'm looking for. And he owns all those tracks, and I don't know what he's doing if he's got Brian France in his back pocket, but he makes a lot of money with the sport, and that's all fine and dandy. And every once in a while, you'll see Atlanta put on a good race, or you'll see a good race. But I mean, 9 times out of 10, the racing it sucks, and I think that. I mean, I know we're beating a dead horse with this topic, but more short tracks and more road courses are definitely needed. I mean, whenever you look at Martinsville, Richmond, but mainly Martinsville and Bristol and places like that, and I think some of the best races all year is when the Xfinity Series goes to road courses. And, I mean, I just don't see why they don't see that. I know there's a lot of money at play in the situation, but you're losing. The sport's gotten to a critical point, and they've got to do something.
Yeah. I would like to see them add a couple different road courses on there and change the suspension on those cars. Don't take an oval setup car to a road course. You heard it Sonoma all day. I'm wicked tight on the right-handers and I'm loose on the left. Just because they're still running the same exact package, maybe to a degree here or there, but it's not like a sports car race where you got an actual racing road course suspension package in there, I think
that's NASCAR's niche shows to have pretty much put in layman terms, have ill handling cars go as fast as possible. That's really what it is. I mean, like when you see people I agree with back in the day when you have them lose out of turns and Bristler was one line, so they have to run each other off the road pretty much just to pass. And road courses when you just see them like bounce and slide across the entire track.
That was one good thing seeing at Sonoma a couple weeks ago, though, was the cars getting airborne like that. That was kind of old school, and seeing them actually like that visor cam
on the curve the way they
on
did.
Danica Patrick at Sonoma was really cool. Because I
think the helmet cam is total badass. Even the one on Allmendinger at Daytona was amazing. I think that was such a cool cam.
And you know what? They had that new bat cam as well, or something like that flew down the back straightaway.
Yeah,
yeah, that was pretty cool too.
Well, they said that was going 100 miles per hour, and like
for some reason though they put it. I don't know. I guess they had to, but they put it behind the fence.
I think they had to.
I wish. I mean, maybe they could put it behind the fence, but elevate it so the fence isn't in the shot.
Yeah.
Because it was kind of like, all right, you can't really see it.
Well, speaking about backstretches, what do you guys think about the overtime rule and all that nonsense? Because I'm going to tell you right now, I absolutely hate the rule, but
I don't know what
your
the
guys'
idea
opinion on
was,
it.
but
I'll tell you my opinion right off the rip. Basically, NASCAR implemented this rule in order to keep green-white checkers in play in the sport. And I think green-white checkers is I think it's done a lot for the sport, and I think it needs to stick around. But I think they screwed up when they made the overtime rule they made the situation worse. And I don't know how that rule even passed. I don't even know how it made it off of the voting table, however they implement these new rules, to be honest.
It doesn't make sense because one of the few rules I have never complained about when NASCAR started going downhill, in my opinion, is that overtime rule. I was 100% behind it, because you were able to at least see a good finish.
I think one simple thing that they could do to make it right is if they make it to the overtime rule and somebody's the wrecker or they throw the caution, at least let them race back to the line.
I don't think you'll ever see that again just because of safety. I honestly don't.
If the crash is off the track, anyways,
No, I agree. I think there should be speculations, but I don't think you would see it.
They did it that way for
years. On the backstretch.
They did it that way for how many decades, and the cars were way more dangerous than they are now. I think they're stupid for not racing back to the line.
And why did when they went from the green-white checkered, the 3 attempts to this now overtime line, why didn't they just make the overtime line the white flag, and instead of making it 3 times,
line, not on the backstretch.
And instead of giving them up to 3 attempts now to make it back to the white flag, just keep the same rule, do it as many times as it takes, but let them race to the white until the leader takes the white flag, not the stupid overtime line. Because especially the plate track, even if it was under green, the last 2 laps, odds are most of those cars aren't going to make it back to the overtime line, let alone on a restart, when everybody's jockeying for position to get every little ounce of speed they can,
Like you said, Jay Wald, it baffles me that NASCAR allowed that to happen. I mean, it's just a rule that it takes away to something that they had good going,
What blows my mind, I mean, I know this probably can't happen in NASCAR, but what ARCA does, even if they take the white flag and there's a caution and, they determine that the leader can't make it back to the line to take the checker safely, they'll have a restart. And they'll have unlimited restarts until they can finish under green. And I know that's probably will never happen in NASCAR, but it should, at least at certain tracks, like short tracks or something.
Well, I think
Because
they owe it to
I
the
don't
fans.
understand.
The people who actually come to the racetrack and pay money.
I know.
If
I
I was to
cannot
go and see
stand
a race
seeing a
in
race
that
end
way,
under caution.
yeah, I would. It would definitely deter me from purchasing another ticket, to be honest.
Especially the plate track, when by the time the leader reaches the overtime line, I mean, hell, how often at a plate track does second place really get, or third or fourth, fifth place get a run on the leader in a quarter of a lap, or a third of a lap? No, it usually takes, I mean, especially at a plate track, it takes a full lap to get up to full song to really make some sort of run on a guy. And if some caution comes out just because the leader crossed this arbitrary line, and oh well, that's the end of the race. Sorry,
And
see you later.
The fact that the line during the Xfinity race, when the wreck happened, like off of 2, and he hit the wall, and then he spun out, and then he went into the infield or whatever. Byron then crosses the line, and then the caution comes out. There should be a guy with his finger on that caution button or whatever they do, and as soon as that car hit the wall, hit it, if he didn't hit the line yet. Because if you're going to have that line rule there, you can't, because they could have easily thrown the caution and had another restart there. The wreck happened way before the line.
Mm-hmm.
But they just threw the caution. We're like, all right, we're done. Pack it up.
It's just so hard to watch the sport now for me personally. Seeing all the silliness going on for it.
Yep, that's why I stick to watching as much short track racing as I can. Most not even NASCAR affiliated, just because I think the racing's better. I like to support the short track media on all the social media networks that I can, and
Grassroots
I
racing.
just think it's better. Yeah, just in general.
For your local tracks and beer.
Yeah, I mean, I go to mine as much as I can.
And real quick, Wall, when you're talking about Bruton Smith, you got to think he was also big Bill France senior era also. So he's one of them good old boys. So his tracks, he's been in the sport forever. So I doubt his ownership or venues are going to be going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah, I think he also owns Bristol, if I'm not mistaken. And I mean, I'm not saying that all of his tracks suck, but I'm saying I think that he's playing a bigger role than most people think because he owns all of the mile and a half. And I mean, in my opinion, I know it's going to hurt the communities in the area that play a factor in it, but there's no reason. I was an avid Charlotte, and I live in North Carolina, but I was an avid Charlotte hater for a long time now because the racing there has just flat out sucked.
Oh, it got
there's
bad
no reason.
Real quick with the
Yeah,
CO2
there is no
cars.
reason we needed to be going there 3 times a year if you factor in the All-Star race. Now, they did just change it to keep the venue and changed it into I guess what you would call the road course version of a roval.
Yeah.
But there's some tracks that baffles me. Why do we go to Pocono twice within a month? That is, that's still,
well,
I'm
that's
like,
'cause of
what
weather.
are we, first graders? Are we not? Well, I mean, we don't need to go to
you
Pocono
shouldn't
but
have
once.
your top tier series be forced, like you shouldn't, especially Pocono. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's another thing. Why did the Truck Series and Xfinity Series also go to Pocono?
Yeah, they have
watching
big
the
of a track.
Xfinity Series at Pocono is even worse than watching the Cup Series. They could find somewhere else better to go.
One thing, though, I'm excited for is Darlington, and not just for the race, because I think that track is amazing, but also for the fact that it is retro paint schemes, my friends. Was it RCR today released at 3 and 31? They're both going to be throwing the Wrangler, the famous blue and yellow paint scheme.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I mean, I'm sure you guys know more, or we've all seen a whole bunch of them and stuff like that. Favorite ones right now?
Honestly, those are the only 2 I've seen so far.
Yeah, same here. I think they've been kind of tight-lipped this season. as far as throwback. I mean, some people have revealed theirs, I think, but I don't think it's been a big media frenzy about it just yet.
I'm pretty sure that they already released it. I remember seeing it, but I can't recall it exactly. But whatever that Wood Brothers team comes up with is gonna be good.
They've already released it. They released it, I think, like last week or the week before.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I can't
I've seen his.
remember it.
Yeah, but that paint scheme, I think, I'm a sucker.
It's a
One, 'cause
throwback
I'm a
every
Wood
week.
Brothers fan, and two, I like Ryan Blaney, but I love those paint schemes as well. Just keep it simple, classic. I mean, you just like watching that car go around the track, you know.
Yeah, it's really, really, really cool to see that car win, and not like Trevor Bayne won the Daytona 500 in the Wood
At
Brothers
Pocono.
car.
And they won at Pocono.
Trevor Bayne won at Pocono.
No, Ryan Blaney won at Pocono.
Oh well, I mean, like I was gonna say, but that, in my opinion, that didn't really count. But and the same thing, that was the era where all the cars looked exactly the same, so that 21 car didn't really stand out as much as it does now with the distinct Ford look, which I really don't like the Fords, but that
Really?
car just looks really nice.
I do like the way the Fords look. Yeah, a little bit more of a mean look
I
to
honestly
them.
think they're probably the best out of the three. I think Toyota is by far the ugliest.
It looks like it looks like a fish.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think the Ford could look a little better.
Yeah, I thought the Fords looked like they had a big mouth on the front of them when they first came out. And
Remember, they had to change the grills. The grills
Yeah.
were actually like riveted or something, and they
Yeah.
flew off all the time.
Yeah, and then I thought the Toyotas looked like they had a big nose where the Toyota symbol was, and then they redesigned it. But I heard the Chevy is revealing the new Gen 6. When is it, in August?
Yeah, I don't know
Yeah,
what they're gonna do.
Because they're discontinuing the Chevy SS. Because that car was.
That's gonna be sweet. 'Cause they're the only ones that haven't
epic
changed
failure.
anything since was it
Huge
2013 when they first came out. You know, ones that hadn't-
Fusions, I don't think changed terribly
The
too
Fusions
much
have
as well.
changed actually 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
But not
Yeah.
significant changes like Toyota.
No, Toyota's
Right.
changed it. This is like the third or fourth change, especially since the beginning of this year when they came out with the 2018 front end. You know.
That we have to see on the pace car every week.
Yeah.
God, you know what I just thought about? I'm gonna feel old when I see throwback Jeff Gordon paint schemes, stuff like that, or throwback junior paint schemes.
Until
like,
Chase Elliott runs another Jurassic Park scheme.
don't say
that'd
that
be
because that's my
the
childhood
best.
right there, and I will die from old age.
Never know.
Really
It could
see
be
that.
a Jurassic World 2 paint scheme.
Hey, it comes out next June. You should run it,
Oh God, that does line up pretty well, doesn't it?
right? With the Coke 600 All Star. It's there. It's there.
The possibility is there. Shit. God, what? That's gonna be weird to see, man. Like, think of like a classic Dale Jarrett when you drove the Ford Care car, or
Quality care.
yeah, same thing. Who cares? Or like a what do you call it? Yeah, I'm drawing blank. Freaking don't talk while I think, and I'm gonna interrupt you when you do that.
Well, not to change the topic, but did any of you guys hear about the lawsuit Greg Biffle is in right now?
With the cameras inside of his house?
Yeah, well, so apparently the news story that I read earlier was that his ex-wife that they divorced in 2015, her name was Nicole Biffle. They met in 1998. They got married in 2007, and they separated in 2015. And apparently, she is suing Greg Biffle. And there was, I think, Roush Fenway was mentioned in the lawsuit. I don't think the team has anything to do with it, but basically, what happened is there are security cameras installed all over the residence, which is kind of a normal thing. But apparently they were saying that he had security cameras installed in the master bedroom and several of the bathrooms in the residence, and that he showed footage to somebody of his ex-wife, and now she is suing for whatever the reason is.
Like how you want to see my wife naked?
Yeah, it's
That
one
is
of
a
those
weird
situations. Is what
story,
she's.
man.
It's
Stick
alleged.
with the Biff.
Yeah.
It's just we need to keep in mind that it's just allegations. There's
Yeah, I mean,
no.
same thing that happened. Remember Kurt Busch's girlfriend, or
That was a crazy story.
yeah, I mean the Biffle thing isn't quite to that level, but it's the same kind of
Concept.
allegation that really.
Well,
doesn't
that
make
one
any
went
sense.
even like 5 times weirder for the sense of like what he tried to kill him or something like that, and like he was saying how she was a spy.
She was an assassin.
or something. Yeah, it was like some weird stuff like that. I'm like, what?
Like some sort of Blackwater military merc or something like that.
Yeah.
What was
It just-
her name? Nicole, right?
I forget.
Sure.
I forget
Play
her
the
name,
game.
but
Well-
she was actually later charged with was it funneling money through the organization that she was president of. So I'm pretty sure she's in jail now.
Yeah.
And that had nothing to do with Kurt Busch. That was of her own making after the divorce. So.
And it was like a military like charity thing, wasn't it, for like disabled veterans or something like that?
Yeah.
And she was like, embezzling money out of it.
Well, I guess all Nicoles are wackos. Apologize to any Nicoles.
And we're off the air. But God, that is a weird story though, with the whole Greg Biffle thing, because that is just, I don't know. You just haven't heard anything about him since he left sport, then that's the first thing you hear, you know.
Well,
when you
I was
try
kind of confused when he left because I was under the impression he was a free agent and just never got a team. But now I'm hearing that he actually retired, and there was never a news story that I seen about it. So,
Well, I think the only offers he got to drive were like BK Racing and maybe like a truck team, and he wasn't gonna be about that life, if you know what I mean.
I don't blame
Yeah.
him.
It's again, that wasn't totally going out on his own terms, but he wasn't gonna embarrass himself like what we talked about before, like Bobby Labonte did.
Yeah, you're not going to
User
grovel
entered
for
your
a
channel.
ride.
Exactly.
User disconnected from your channel.
So, what races this weekend? We got Kentucky.
Kentucky.
You guys think that's going to be a good race, or we're going to see another boring?
The repave is probably still gonna ruin it for everybody.
Oh, it is repaved, isn't it?
And you
Yeah,
want to know something
well,
really dumb? You know
last
how
year
they
was
were
the-
doing the tire dragging thing? Apparently, they're doing that on the bottom lane. Not
or is
the
that
top
the same?
lane.
That's the same thing they did at was it Michigan?
No, Texas.
Texas.
Yeah, Texas, and even the drivers were outspoken. They were like, "Why are you dragging the bottom lane?" That makes no. Did people?
like-
These people not listen to NASCAR news and just make these calls? I
It
just
doesn't
don't get
make
it.
any sense.
I'm sorry, they can't hear you over all the money they're making anyway. So
Yeah,
that's
apparently
really what
so.
it is. It's whatever. It's almost like they think the NASCAR fans are stupid in the sense, because it's like, look, we're trying to add grip. You're at the wrong spot. What? You're from the South and you like your cousin? Oh well.
yeah.
Like it's.
Did Kentucky repave last year? Was last year the first
Last year
repave
was the
race?
first, yeah.
I was going to say, because I know last year was also the first race that they debuted the low downforce package too. Now, I remember
Yeah.
Carl Edwards was a fan of it, and I couldn't remember if they repaved last year or if this is going to be the first race.
Well, I will say, I think I may be mistaken about this, but are we positive last year was the first repave race? I thought it was the year that Keselowski got shoved onto the apron and then got rear-ended on like lap 2 or 3.
Like
I thought
Kurt
that
2
was
years ago.
Yeah, I thought it was.
I don't
I
know.
thought this. I think this will be the third or at least the third race after the repave.
Well, I
I mean,
think that
could
that
be
race
wrong,
you're
but-
talking about was.
We need someone on standby to look up facts for us.
I think that race you're talking about, because that's when Kurt Busch got into him down there, and one of the things is they hit that big bump, and I think that was the old configuration because they had that huge bump in the apron down there. You know,
Right.
I don't think they would have repaved it and left that huge bump.
Unless a track becomes unsafe to where it's crazy abrasive on tires or the bumps break the cars, why on earth do you have to repave?
Well,
I
even
understand.
then,
Actually, they had the weeper problem, right? Kentucky with the
well,
water.
yeah, and that was what I was going to say. Well, I think typically what we're seeing out of these tracks that do the repave, they're all saying, well, we have weeper issues, or AKA water drainage problems, and all that makes sense. But I don't know, man. It's just I would rather sit under a race under rain delay and watch the weepers weep across the track versus a track that dries quick, that's freshly repaved, that Martin Truex Jr. gets out in front and leads 396 out of 400 laps. I mean,
you would think that the engineers in NASCAR could come up with a way to stop water from coming out onto the track, seal them, or I don't know.
That was my
Figure
biggest
something
gripe about TMS. That track opened up in '97, and that's the second repave. The first one for structural damage, ground settling or whatever. But unless your track is cracking and splitting in half due to structural foundation issues, there's no reason to repave for at least 20 years.
Yeah. How long?
And like you said,
Oh, is Atlanta gonna get a repave, or did they already?
I think they won that argument not to get repaid. If I'm
Yeah.
not
Yeah, I
mistaken.
think
they're
they
going to hold
announced
off
that
one
they
more
were,
season.
but
Yeah.
they got attacked for it. I think.
And like you were just saying just now about engineers when it comes to designing the track, as far as weepers go, how come nobody's been able to design a tarp system that attaches to the fence, and the minute raindrops hit the track, and it rolls from the wall down to the apron?
I haven't really thought of that.
Why has that not even been a consideration?
Because what you need to do right now is exit the podcast and go to your courthouse to get that patent.
Yeah, no
So
kidding.
you can make a lot of money.
I think about that all the time. Like all these safer barrier walls, you could put something above that if a car crashes into the safer barrier, it won't hit this mechanism. Or if it does and it takes out one little section, all you gotta do is take the jet dryers and dry off a section as opposed to a whole track.
The Air Titans have greatly improved the chance to race on a rainy day, for sure. But it still takes 2 hours and 45 minutes to dry Daytona or something like that.
But Daytona's also not stupid huge, so
Well, yeah, but that's what I mean. Like it kind of defeats the purpose.
I mean,
what if they developed a tire? Hold on, what if they develop a tire that can grip in the wet
on 33 degrees of banking?
It could happen
with a 3,400-pound car.
Yeah, with 800 horsepower.
There's the issue.
I'm not saying they're going to be doing 200. I'm just saying there might be technology out there to grip in wet conditions. And I'm not saying saying F1 conditions like monsoon status where you're staying in 2 inches of rain, but
the drizzle.
I mean, if you put, I guarantee, what if they could develop? Because I imagine the biggest would be tread depth as well as sidewall strain, right?
Mm-hmm.
What if they were able to develop a rain tire that would be able to handle road ovals? I mean,
I don't think they will
bring them to road courses. I don't know.
I think the weight and speed rate, the G-force they're carrying in the turn, I think they'd still be spitting out. They'd still be sliding out.
The camber that they put into those cars at the ovals?
Uh-huh.
Half the tire isn't even hitting the track.
Yeah.
On the straightaway. They'd be hydroplaning.
It's not. It just wouldn't work. And plus, you know how many blown tires we've seen this year, and all the drivers immediately attack Goodyear? That is 100%.
It's not Goodyear's fault. I know. It's
100% the team that try to push the limits of either tire pressure or camber, cast, or whatever they try to do. And it bites them in the rear end.
Okay, so F1 next year, there's rumors that F1 next year is going to have a tire battle, essentially. They had this before between, Michelin and Bridgestone. Supposedly, F1 is open to allow Michelin to come back in and battle Pirelli with the tires. What if NASCAR did the same thing? Hoosier? I mean, what do you think, J1 Chops?
What does ARCA run? Fire? No, General Tire. Honestly, I don't hear any tire problems in ARCA.
Well, are they also going fast enough and
they
race long enough to do that?
Long enough, I don't know, but it's still I'm sure they could last a fuel run at Daytona or whatever.
I know when there is a repave and Goodyear says, "Oh, go ahead and just automatically bring the hardest tire we can possibly make to the track," doesn't make for good racing. And I think NASCAR needs to. I mean, they bought that green option tire for the All-Star race. I think NASCAR needs to implement that.
That was fun to watch.
Just like F1,
That really was.
just like F1 or Indy, and make it a requirement that you have to use at least both compounds. And yeah, granted, now they could make that green tire a little bit more durable than 10 laps, and make the regular tire so that 30 laps into a run, no matter where you're at, you're gonna think about short pitting just to get new tires like they do at Atlanta every race.
I would say everywhere except Daytona and Talladega. I think those tracks, those are the only places where tires aren't a massive difference.
They should just bring the safest possible tire.
Yeah.
And just let them race.
Mile and a half, short track, anywhere other than a plate track, hell, there ain't no reason
Imagine
why
an option tire at Bristol.
Yeah.
Like someone getting an option tire and being that much faster at Bristol and trying to pass people. It would
or
be
make that
insane.
option tire so sticky that you don't need that stupid sticky compound on a track. That option tire is so sticky that while everybody's blowing your doors off on the high line, let's throw them green bad boys on there, and I can run the bottom at Bristol, Now, it may only be for 25 laps, and that'll go by in 2 seconds. I understand that, but, I mean, try something, reduce downforce, leave the horsepower, and bring a soft tire that because the best racing is when guys are struggling on old tires, on a place like Atlanta.
Oh yeah,
But when you have a repave, like when they repaved Michigan, and Goodyear brought that real hard left side tire, and they gave them an extra practice, and Dale Jr. was like, granted, he went on to win that race, but he was like, "This is ridiculous." I mean, they brought the hardest tire they made. They've been sitting in a warehouse for 7 years. This is stupid. Just to slow the speeds down. They were doing, 215, 220 into turn one?
Well, that's what they were doing just at Michigan a couple weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
They were hitting 215, 216.
Yeah.
But that's with the low downforce. Or they made the spoiler smaller or something. What did they do?
Yeah, the rear spoiler. They changed the front spoiler too, but
which
made it
there
skinnier.
should be.
Oh,
Why
well,
in the world does a stock car clip the grass and is done for the day?
Yeah.
When you have a splitter that's literally 1 inch off the ground.
Remember watching the Open at the All-Star weekend, and where it was Eric Jones, Ryan
right?
Blaney, and I think Chase Elliott?
And
That
Eric
was
Jones went to
an
the
amazing battle. And Eric Jones puts half a tire in the grass, and his left front is destroyed.
Yeah.
And he couldn't even make it another corner without spinning out because it just screwed up the whole car. Like, that's when you know there's a problem.
Yep. I watched Dale Jr. do that my first year having season tickets at Texas Motor Speedway. After a rain delay, they went back green. 3 laps into the race, he barely clipped the grass on that last little dog leg going into turn one, and it completely threw the front end up, and he slammed into the outside wall and caught on fire, and finally got stopped on the apron, exiting 2. And it's like that alone right there was a safety hazard, because what if it, his car was on fire, It's not like it just ripped the front end off and screwed up the suspension, so.
Remember when, who was it? I think it was Carl Edwards. He went to celebrate in the grass and killed the car.
Yeah.
Right after the All-Star race, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I think Jimmy Johnson did that once too.
Did he? I don't know. But, so, another thing is all of us are a part of Icar. We do sim racing and stuff like that off of iRacing. Now would be a good segment to go to talking about just future sim racing stuff like that. What would you guys want to see change in iRacing altogether? Whether it be like their safety system, which is my biggest complaint because I think it's a terrible system. The way the community is and stuff like that. I think it's a good community. But what are you guys' inputs for that and stuff like that?
Man, I don't know, but I've had to take sometimes like weeks and months just away from the game because I get that frustrated with not only the community, but just I hate being penalized for things that are completely out of my control
User entered your
and not
channel.
my own wrongdoing.
Well,
And I can't deal with it.
it's a no fault system. Just because iRacing doesn't have the manpower to go back and review and say, hey, look,
Insufficient
I see that the
permissions.
10 car caused this and not you, Gerald, or whatever the case may be. And so, therefore, in order to keep an even playing field, it's a no fault system. And then also, you got to think it's a sim. And in order to get it as close to reality as possible, I think they have to cost something when you get into a wreck, because when you get into a wreck in real life, it's going to cost the team money. So when you get into a wreck on here, it's going to cost you. They obviously can't charge you money for that, so they're going to charge you, safety rating, and in turn, I guess part of the deal is lose some I rating. And I think it's a great system. Yeah, there's times that stupid crap happens that shouldn't, but I mean,
like me and you at Atlanta.
Yeah, you're gonna have days where things don't go your way, and I think the system that they use is perfect for a sim environment.
Like, I was in an official race probably a couple of weeks ago, and just racing around people. I think I was in like K&N cars or something. I'm not sure. And this guy dove into the corner under me and slipped up a little bit, and I didn't even feel him touch me, but I guess he did just enough to register, so it gave me ×2 contact, which I was like, all right, I could deal with that. But then he spun out and hit the inside wall, and it gave me an extra 4 times for him hitting the inside wall because I had previous contact. That got me frustrated because that means I got ×6 for him entirely screwing up. I did absolutely nothing wrong. And that ruins your safety rating.
Well, I have seen a big issue lately, and it was even before the plate races, with the net coding. Now, I guess what we used to call it back when all of us used to console race was the bubble, which is where, for the listeners who don't understand what that is basically when you're racing somebody in a sim or a video game, and you get close to them, and you don't really hit them on your screen, but on theirs, you do hit them.
Yeah, your car is in positions where it is on their screen.
Right,
kind of.
And basically what that is a difference in internet latency and the upload speed of one guy's internet versus the upload speed of another. So it kind of creates this, what I guess we'd call it net code or bubble, if you will. And lately, when I first joined iRacing, it was perfect, man. I mean, if you hit somebody on your screen, you definitely hit them, and there's nothing you could say about it. But I've noticed a big netcode issue with iRacing lately, and it's something they definitely have kind of ignored from the community, I guess you could say, and something they do need to take a look at. And from what you were explaining, it kind of sounded like that might have been a netcode issue.
I think one thing with iRacing community as a whole, it's honestly not a warming area to be a part of. I think a lot of people take it a little too serious. I understand a lot of it, for myself included, this is the closest I'm ever going to get to be a race car driver. But I think a lot of people need to sit back and chill, because I think you see a lot of people want to race like Days with Thunder or Ricky Bobby status, and it kind of ruins the experience overall.
I do think some people need to chill, especially at plate tracks, when right off the bat you're like, what is it when you hear people arguing, and it's in the same argument with different people every single time. What are you thinking? What are you doing? Why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? Well, every wreck I've ever gotten into, at least for me, it wasn't done on purpose, so and especially at a plate track, you kind of got to, I mean, if you get into a plate track and are just floored because you got accidentally wrecked or dumped or whatever, then you shouldn't race on a plate track to begin with. I don't know. I do think, like you're saying, some people take it way too serious.
And I get it. It's, some people have that competitive nature, or to some people, this is what, this is the closest they're going to get to live out their dream, to say, right? To race on iRacing. You get the chance to race with legit drivers and in a
It is certainly
relatively.
cool seeing like some guy racing pop up in a lobby. Like I know William Byron and Ty Majeski are huge iRacers, and they still do it all the time.
Or even
I've
like
never
we
raced
have
with them, but
Dylan
cool to
Duvall, who I know for a long time. Same with Jay. Well, you know him. He races in the Peak Series, So we have people like that who are racing in the televised "Look at Me" series. So it is one of those things where you can kind of get notoriety from, but at the same time, where are the odds? You know,
I think more and more teams are actual Cup teams. Like Alex Bowman, his job at Hendrick Motorsports now is to run iRacing and test setups. And like every team actually in their shop now will have a whole setup with big screens and a racing seat and a wheel and for iRacing and simulators and
can I
things
get
like
that
that.
job?
Right? How cool would it be to be hired by like Roush Fenway to be their sim driver?
What do you do for a living? I simulate racing experience.
I
Put you
go
on
into
the
work
was it
every
the
day
8-point
and
shaker and stuff like
do
that
video
and
games.
everything? Oh man, that would be impressive.
Sweet.
Ooh, you know what I want iRacing to do next? 'Cause I know, like, so they just came out with dirt, right? And next they said they're gonna do rally cars or global rallycross. They need to do rallying better.
Like European rally point to point on high
Yeah.
cliffs.
Yes.
That would be hard scanning tracks and
Yeah,
stuff,
that's gonna be a big issue.
but it would be cool. I don't want them. What I'm afraid iRacing is going to do is they're going to see how much notoriety dirt got and how much notoriety the rallycross cars will get. I don't want them to keep adding things to where they're going to have to make up tracks and it's going to become a video game kind of thing. They're going to
I
create
don't
random
think that's
tracks.
gonna be an issue. Honestly,
Well-
I think there's so many tracks in the world and different configurations.
Yeah, but that's maybe what they would have to do if they added like European rallying kind of thing.
Jared, I think you hit a good point, and something I was going to mention later on is I think with the huge addition that Dirt already was, and the success that they've had with it, I can count 10 to 15 other things that seriously lacked in the new build because they were so focused on Dirt. And I'm all for getting a new series into the sim community and iRacing in general, but they need to make sure they have the team capable of handling such a large task before. Because, for instance, when they dropped Dirt, they upgraded the symmetry in the 2017 package in the Cup cars and Xfinity cars, except they did not release the fixed setups for those cars. So there were no fixed series for part of the week until the next Monday. They released a few very slim pickings for fixed setups, and there's other areas that have kind of fell under the radar, I guess you could say. So I want to make sure that they can handle such a large task next time before they jump into it.
I mean, and the crazy thing about it is you got to remember this isn't a EA Sports or Rockstar company. You know what I mean? This is still a very small business doing this.
And being as big of a fan as at short track racing as I am, I could list off at least 10 tracks that I just wish were on this game or sim, whatever you want to call it. That they can definitely. I know they just added Myrtle Beach, which is really cool. But yeah, there's a bunch more. Like I like how they brought in Dirt to kind of cater to more to the oval, like the NASCAR fans, because that's most of their grassroots stuff. But they already have a lot of the asphalt grassroots stuff in there. But there's a lot more that they can add. And I think it's only up from here for iRacing. I don't think it's, like I said, with the Cup teams using them now, I think it's only going to grow.
Oh, absolutely. When they come out with this whole rallycross thing, I'd like to see them eventually implement. I don't know how well it'll work, but like the core, whatever, the championship off-road racing trucks,
Lucas Oil off-road racing.
Yeah,
series.
like the Lucas Oil series.
Those would be fun because those tracks would be really easy to scan.
Oh yeah,
because they are like purpose-built for those trucks, and they're not long tracks. They're kind of short little road courses with some jumps. Those would be incredibly fun.
I'd like to. I think if the whole rallycross thing goes well, because rallycross usually has at least one good jump in it.
Yeah, they got the jump. They have the Joker.
Yeah, and if they can get the simulation feeling of jumping, and then the way the steering wheel feels when you hit the ground and all that.
Yeah, with the force feedback.
I don't see any reason why they couldn't do like the Lucas Oil trucks, in the future with a few of those tracks.
That could be a whole nother license because you could add Pro 4s, you could add the Pro 2s, the Pro Lights, and then the buggies.
Yeah.
There's like 4 different divisions in that series.
Yeah, to me, that would be. I like the dirt, what I've raced so far, but that to me would be freaking sweet.
It's pretty much like dirt road course.
Yeah,
that's pretty much what it is.
So we're gonna wrap this up for today's guys. Just real quick, I just saw on Facebook, and NASCAR on Fox just put out. Brad Keselowski says adding another manufacturer is the most important thing we could do for the sport. Do you agree? Quick yes or no. J-Wall?
Absolutely.
Thanks, J-Wall. Now, real J-Wall?
In the grand scheme of things, quick answer, yes.
Gerald?
Absolutely, please be Dodge.
What if it... never mind. We're about to dive deeper. Let's not do that. But thank you very much for listening.
A topic for the next episode.
That would be good to talk about next episode. Again, we do this every other week, so do bear with us. I'm John. This is Icar Racing Network. Please, please, please like, share, subscribe, comment, tweet, Instagram, FaceTube, you book us. Try to give us feedback. We would really like to get the show going. The more feedback we hear from you guys listening, the better we can make this show. Hopefully, the more we'll also listen. So, thank you very much for listening, and have a good day.